Next up, yet another undefeated Montreal-based fighter, and this one also from Romania. Jojo Dan faces Ricardo Cano. There is Ricardo Cano. He started fighting as a 15-year-old in Mexico. This is his first fight outside of Mexico. Cano is 12-2-1 with 6 knockouts. Jojo Dan, 25 years old, 5'11", 144.5. He is a perfect 16-0 with 8 knockouts. He just fought in January. He won a decision against Chris Henry.
This is my official dressing room. I want a clean fight. Protect yourself at all time. Obey my command. Touch love.
All but one fight for Dan have been right here in Canada. It's been 9.5 months, Joe, since Cano was last in the ring.
That was against Victor Marquez. He won a 10-round decision. He has been stopped in his career back in 2004.
And he's also been involved in a couple of rough and tumble, even dirty tactic fights, you might want to say. He was disqualified in one, and he won one of those by disqualification.
Cano is in the white trunks. Jojo Dan in the blue trunks. 2 southpaws.
Nobody with an advantage when both are lefties, like looking into a mirror. Most of the time, a southpaw has an advantage with an orthodox fighter. Orthodox fighters don't get a chance to get a peek at southpaws too often. This case, as I said, advantage nullified. A bang of heads a moment ago, but no blood.
Right hook from Cano is off the mark.
You're going to get bangs of heads here, Joe. Both guys fairly tall, but both guys lean forward with their heads.
Cano warned.
You always want good technique. When you're coming forward, you want to bring your legs. Don't let your upper body get ahead of your legs. The upper body of these fighters sometimes get ahead of the lower body.
Jojo able to hook off the jab moments ago.
Right now, Dan looks like a laser compared to Cano. Looking not to waste anything, looking to zero in on openings as Cano may be throwing, but not nearly as accurate as Dan. You can just see the confidence with the man in blue. He's walking into position, just missing now, but setting himself up for good offense as Cano right now just trying to weather storms that are thrown at him.
He just missed a straight left hand moments ago that would have really clipped Cano as Cano was going straight back. Now back in the center of the ring.
Dan trying to do his southpaw imitation of Floyd Mayweather, dropping his right hand and tucking that shoulder in.
There's a left hand to the body from Jojo Dan. He had a fairly productive first round to the undefeated fighter from right here in Montreal. End of 1 on Wednesday Night Fights. Wednesday Night Fights from Mel's studio in Montreal, Quebec. Joe Tessitore alongside Teddy Atlas. You're watching Jojo Dan in the blue trunks, undefeated fighter who moved to Montreal 6 months ago. He's originally from Romania. There must be a pipeline between Romania and Montreal for pro boxers. Earlier tonight we saw Adrian Diaconou, who was so impressive. You're going to see his highlights at the end of this round. And of course, former world champion not that long ago, Leo Doreen, who was a very heavy-handed action fighter, originally from Romania and fought out of Montreal.
Watch your head.
I mentioned in the first round you're going to see clashes of heads. We've just seen one, and there's a cut from that clash ahead in the corner of the right eye of the undefeated Dan.
Yeah, it just started pumping here, and you can see it now starting to stream down that right side.
Dan being tested, even if he's having his way with the punches, being tested in an area he's never been tested before. Being cut now and being asked to deal with that. As right now, Cano deals with a low blow.
Villanueva is the referee. He's going to let Cano know that he has a full 5 minutes. Watch for the low blow here. There is the right hand that strays south.
It looked like from that picture, like Cano was almost anticipating it, had that left hand down much lower than it should have been.
Dan working behind that jab. Sends a left hand to the body as Cano comes in. Just missed with the uppercut. There's a straight left hand by JoJo Dan.
You know, a lot of times I say to fighters, you have to be the ocean, not the log. You want to control the log and move the log in and out like the tide does or the ocean does. Right now, Dan is the ocean and Cano is his log. Just watch. For the most part, Dan in control of what Cano does. Right there, he steps out and he makes Cano reach in, Joe. Now he makes Cano go back. Now he makes Cano reach in again. Again, the ocean right now is the man in blue. If you can make your opponent do what you want him to do, you are more than halfway there to winning a fight. Or to winning in anything that might be your vocation. Again, Dan doing a good job of picking his spots, getting in and getting out at the right time, and placing his shots a lot better than Cano.
JoJo Dan in control early on against Ricardo Cano. Earlier tonight, our main event featured Adrian Diacono, the undefeated power puncher, against world title challenger Rico Hoy. And Diacono was hitting the mark with ease, Teddy.
Yes, he was. And the mark was being hit by those right hands and left hooks.
He scored 2 knockdowns in the second round, and look at this combination in the third round.
Again, more of the same. Right hands and left hooks. That's the MO for the undefeated Diacono.
Adrian Diacono now 24-0 with 15 knockouts. And this is a guy, and I said it earlier, this is a guy you want to see again. Stylistically, he's pleasing. He goes out there and makes a heck of a fight.
And with that background, that pedigree of amateur base with 300 fights, it's more than just somebody going out there, Joe, and chucking a bunch of punches. It's somebody that understands the dimensions in that ring of when to chuck those punches and when not to chuck them. And a guy that you have the feeling that he's not going to fade away when he's approached in a real fight. With that 300 amateur fights behind him, you would think there's a chance for there to be substance with that style.
Fellow countryman from Romania, JoJo Dan, looking good here in the opening goings of round 3. He's in the blue trunks, unbeaten fighter. Also has put forth his pro career here in Montreal against Ricardo Cano. Good work doubling up that right jab. Pair of southpaws, mirror images of each other.
We mentioned in the first round, expect to see a lot of head clashes. We've seen a lot of head clashes already. Both fighters, and again, there's a reason for it. How can we tell that so early? Both fighters lean forward in their upper bodies. They allow their heads to get ahead of their legs.
JoJo Dan turned himself around for a moment, but Cano didn't charge forward.
When you come in with your upper body leading the way, instead of being right with your legs, Joe, two things can happen. One, you can bang heads, and two, you can get picked off with punches as your upper body is out in front. Right now, the man getting picked off is Cano.
Cano complaining about the damage done to his right eye moments ago. And blood from that clash of heads.
Dan right now using that lead right hand from the southpaw stance to set up something harder. You can see he's looking to set up. And that time it was a big left uppercut underneath.
Stop! Box!
Right hook scores for Dan.
Now that was a clean punch, but not a lot of effect. And the reason for it, as Cano trips to the ground and the referee says no knockdown, he's going to wipe the gloves now. The reason you just saw a moment ago that right hook land from Dan on the chin or the side of the face of Cano and it wasn't effective, he did not turn it over. Again, he slaps with that punch, does the man in blue.
They trade here at the end of the third round, and JoJo Dan getting the best of it. An offensive spurt. Both men bloodied as we come to the end of round number 3.
Pretty good list there. Canadian Fight Club. Ivan Durrell, George Chavallo, tough son of a gun. The Hilton family, two of them being represented. Davey Hilton Jr., then later on Matthew Hilton, of course Arturo Gatti, Otis Grant, Eric Luca, who's been on our air plenty of times, the former world champion.
JoJo Dan opens up with a left hand here against Ricardo Cano. Left hand scores again from Dan. He's in the blue trunks. Tries to sneak that right hook in. Sends a left to the body. And JoJo Dan smoking early here in the fourth round. He threw 24 punches in the opening 30 seconds. Trying to get around that guard to the body. Goes up top with a right hand. Squared up right in front of each other now. See that list of Canadian fighters. Arturo Gatti on that list. Snapping that jab. Teddy's scorecard. First 3 rounds go to JoJo Dan. And I think there's some fans new to the sport that think that he's a Jersey guy, but Friday Night Fights was up here back in the day covering Arturo Gatti, packing him in Montreal. Punch track numbers in real time. Dan landing 98 and counting now. He has already landed 21 here in this fourth round. Another clash of heads on the inside as Ricardo Cano came in behind the jab with a right hand, fell forward.
Sometimes you lay back, as Cano is doing, because you're a counterpuncher. And you wait for your opponent to make mistakes, kind of like the spider luring the beetle into the den. But Cano is not laying back because his strength is to counter. He's laying back because he is unsure of himself. He right now is not sure of how to approach the undefeated Dan. Now you see an effort from Cano trying, just by coming forward, nothing fancy, a lot of big shots, a lot of wide shots, but not a lot of landing from Cano.
Good left hand there, and Cano stumbles back. And now JoJo Dan trying to place his punches.
Now would be a good time, as you suggested, for Dan to place something downstairs. Cano in survival mode, moving his head, trying to avoid whatever comes at him. No better time to go to the body than now for Dan.
End of round 4. Earlier tonight, we pay tribute to Diego Chico Corrales, who lost his life in a tragic accident earlier this week. Teddy, when you think of Diego Corrales, you think of the sensational fight, the fight of the year type fight. And we asked you to put together your list of the all-time greatest fights, because you know Chico Corrales is going to end up on that list. So let's take a look at Teddy Atlas's all-time greatest fight list.
I wish Chico was still with us to see this, but he belongs on the top of that list, I believe. You don't get much better than that fight. Then Bobby Chacon and Bose Edwards, the second one, they had plenty of great fights. And, of course, Bazooka Lamone was around those times. He was involved in some fights with those guys. Archie Moore, 45 years old. He comes off the floor 3 times in the first round to knock out Ivan Durrell, who's 29 years old. Mickey Ward, Gaddy, Rocky Graziano, somebody up there likes me. Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Thriller Manila, Larry Holmes, and Ken Norton. Both fighters took different directions from that fight. That's what made Larry Holmes. It was a 15-round fight. A lot of people forget how great that 15th round was and how great that fight was.
Round 5, Ricardo Cano was hurt. He's in the white trunks at the end of that 4th round. Jojo Dan finding his groove here in his 5th round yet again. You know, I have no problem with Chico Corrales and Castillo being number 1 on that list at all. The more you watch that fight, the more you appreciate it. It was just unbelievable. You know, Teddy, when I think about Chico this week, and I think about all the attention that went to De La Hoya Mayweather last week from the mainstream media and the fans that maybe haven't been watching boxing in recent years. You know what I wish? I wish they had watched Chico Corrales in recent years, those same fans that were coming back to the sport this past weekend. Instead of watching De La Hoya Mayweather, I wish they watched Castillo Corrales.
Well, the good thing about that is, as we were saying in our testament to Chico Corrales before early in the night, those fans will always have a chance to look at Chico Corrales, look back on that special night, how he chose to behave that night like a pretty special person.
Cano missing with 3 consecutive punches as Jojo Dan able to slip underneath. Doubles up that right hand to the body and then fired off the uppercut to Dan. 1-2, classic combination, straight left hand scores and doubles up that right jab. Back to it now is Dan.
Even though it's been all one way, at least on our scorecards, and that one way has been in the favor of the local undefeated Dan. Dan doing a little bit of heavy breathing. Maybe just from being in a situation where he has to deal with somebody who does not want to go away. Cano, you would think the conditioning would be pretty good, Joe. He's coming in the lightest weight in 2 years and 3 months.
Came in at 144. He most recently weighed 147. First fight outside of Mexico for Cano. Cano and Dan coming to the end of round number 5. Wednesday night fights from Montreal. Darlington Speedway. That's the next stop for the NASCAR Busch Series. Carl Edwards going to try to extend his points lead. He's at NASCAR's well-known track, Darlington. NASCAR Busch Series at Darlington, presented by Coleman on ESPN2 Friday at 8 Eastern. And then we're going to be following that up with Friday night fights. Kelvin Davis going heavyweight. Former cruiserweight titleist stepping up to face Terry Smith on Friday night fights. Next week on Wednesday night fights, Glenn Johnson against Montel Griffin. And we will be coming to Montreal twice in June for ESPN Boxing. 2 Friday night fights, and they are good ones. Jean Pascal undefeated against Ruben Williams, and Randall Bailey against Herman Ngojo. That's on June 8th. And then June 15th, Lucian Butte against Sakio Bika. So top action here in Montreal. We have enjoyed our visits here in recent years, and such was the case tonight with the main event and the showcase of Adrian Diacono. And now Teddy Atlas will look at your scorecard and getting a good look at another undefeated Montreal-based fighter in the blue trunks is JoJo Dan, up 5-zip on your scorecard.
Dan not in possession of a lot of power. But what he is in possession of is an understanding that defense should be part of his makeup. Defensively responsible. As a matter of fact, defensively, he has been creating opportunities for himself offensively, as he makes right here, Cano miss, and comes back and picks spots.
Good work with the jab there. You can see him covering up and giving good head movement.
He understands the always importance, or the all-important opponent's punches, does Dan. Offense is great, but without defense, sometimes you're not around to show off that offense.
JoJo Dan, a 152-85 connect advantage. Total punches thrown and landed.
And a lot of times, Joe, the only way a fighter, sometimes when he's a little limited, to set up offense is to walk right in, use his jab, set it up, as I say, sometimes on the front end, by getting off first, by using the jab. But it's a nice option to be able to use defense to create offensive opportunities.
Gets away from Cano's offerings and then throws back a right hand of his own, does JoJo Dan. End of 6, 2 to go for Montreal. ESPN Wednesday Night Fights presented by the new Just for Men hair color, knocks out the gray better than ever. And in part by Lowe's, for all your home improvement needs, let's build something together. JoJo Dan is trying to build upon his 16-0 mark. He is in the blue trunks, and he looks like he is in good position to do so with 2 rounds to go against Ricardo Cano. Average rounds fought. Cano 4.1, Dan 4.4. Here in round number 7. Jumps in with a jab, does Cano.
You know, we talked about a couple rounds ago that even though control of the fight was in the hands of the local Dan, he looked like he was gasping a little bit for breath. Shows signs of slowing down just a little bit. This round, as he picks it up, just as I say that, of course. And now puts on a little bit of a flurry. But a little bit of a slow down mode. The last round and this round for Dan.
Good left hand from JoJo Dan.
And Joe, how did he land that left hand? Defense created that opportunity. He slipped the right jab to his left and came back with a left counterpunch. Again, defense serving Dan offensively. It's great to have options. Dan has some options. See that cut in the corner of the right eye of Cano, again, is open.
Happened in the third round, and now it's giving him fits. And now Cano goes down to the canvas again.
I think Cano pleading his case to the referee, looking for a little help.
Oh, there's a good right hook from JoJo Dan, and Cano's down.
And again, the hook set up by good defense from Dan.
Hey.
So a power surge at the end of round 7. Watch for the right hook from JoJo Dan.
And watch how it's set up. Again, coming out of a crouch with his legs right under him. Good left hand, a bend. He gets underneath the punch. And Dan, again, there's the bend. There's an opening, and there's a right hook. Defense creating offense. You can walk right in and just move your hands, or you can make your opponent miss and get opportunities. Dan doing a little of both.
8th and final round. Ricardo Cano clipped at the end of that 7th round. Comes out firing, flurrying here to start this 8th round. Nothing has worked against Dan.
You know, there's no better way to discourage an opponent than to allow him to throw where he can't hit. To make him miss and then come back and put something on him. It's one thing when you go out there and you're hitting an opponent, but your opponent is able to hit you back. There's still hope. When your opponent can't hit you back and he's receiving, it's a quick way of going downhill in a very discouraging manner.
JoJo Dan pushing behind the top of the head once again. Had that warning before against Alain Villanueva, the referee. Cano with his hands down, and Dan chases him back to that neutral corner.
Again, some frustration from the game Cano, who for the most part has taken much more than he's been able to give. And part of that frustration, losing round after round, but also not being able to give back, Joe, to his opponent. It's one thing when you're taking, but you can give back. But when you're taking and when you try to give back, you find the air, as Cano has found with Dan, because of Dan's defensive abilities. You get very, very discouraged. Right now, Cano feeling that emotion. There's one of the reasons why you don't see a lot of power from Dan. Watch that right hook. When it lands, he cups with it a little bit. Right there, you saw a good picture of that. A little bit of a slap with that right hook. If he was taught to turn it over a little bit better, Joe, where he would hit with the square part of the hand, it would be that much more effective.
They open up here in the final 10 seconds. Both wide sweeping shots. Left hand from JoJo Dan lands last. Seventh round signature moment of the fight was JoJo Dan scoring the knockdown he controlled throughout. We'll come back and hear from the judges on Wednesday Night Fights. Your boxing authority. Punch Track fight recap between Ricardo Cano and JoJo Dan. Dan landing 138 headshots. The right hook scored a knockdown. That was his best headshot in round 7. Let's look at Teddy Atlas's scorecard. You will note round 7 is the 10-8 round, thus 80-71. For the official decision, we head up to the ring here in Montreal. And Pierre Bernier is standing by.
All right, here is the judge's decision. Le juge de Carufel, 79-71, 79-71. Le juge Lapointe, 80-71, 80-71. Et le juge Procopio, 79-72. Pour le gagnant, for the winner, par décision unanime, unanimous decision, JoJo Dan.
Teddy, it's a good night to be an undefeated fighter from Montreal. And not that these guys were, positioned and padded for this tonight, but between Sebastian Gauthier, JoJo Dan, and especially Adrian Diaconou, some decent-looking fighters that you want to monitor as their careers advance, especially Diaconou.
Well, it seems like, quite honestly, every time we come up here to our northern neighbor, we get a good card. So I enjoy coming up.